It's a very interesting space. Vulnerabilities, we tend to see much of the same. I think we had that conversation yesterday about, and it's the same with the threat sector. The vulnerability space really talks about, in particular, the areas that I work is the technical vulnerabilities of systems and solutions that are put in place. No different to the Apple vulnerability that came out last week or something. We do some tests and a lab somewhere finds a vulnerability and broadcasts it through the cyber intelligence network, and we find out that we all go and patch effectively after they've released some patches or do some more work in those spaces. But by and large, if you're talking about, I guess, the procurement space, there's not a lot of vulnerability or technical vulnerability in that space. It's more about the vulnerability of best practice and actually putting those governance processes in place to make sure you're ticking the boxes as you go through the procurement and contract development phase, and making sure that you're ticking off not only those areas, but the areas that you may need to go out and do some further investigation. I don't expect a procurement professional to come to me and say, "Hey, I've got this vulnerability and this is the code of it. What do we do with that?" Because that's a real technical deep dive for technical security specialists to get into. But to come and ask for advice, procurement specialists should be seeking advice from either their local business or security professionals in the industry that they're aware of or they can get hold of. There's a number of reasons. I think a lot of people think about it as, cybersecurity or information security, whichever brand you want to sort of push it under. We all think about, a bad actor of some description having what's the word I'm looking for? A targeted attack on your organization, and we sort of think the security like that. I mean, that's a high level sort of snapshot where people go, "Well, it's cybersecurity. It's people trying to hack into stuff." But there's a lot more to it in the procurement space because there's a lot more on the other end in terms of the rollout of solutions and projects and bits and pieces that actually can really impact the business in a very negative way. And security, cybersecurity, information security, cybersecurity is about business risk. It's not about technology. Technology is the enabler. It's all the tool sets we use to do business. We have to look at the threat level and the security risk level in a different perspective and pull together that how does that risk or that vulnerability affect the business itself, the art of making money, through sales and the like. So in this space, it's you could have instances where you're buying a solution, a technical solution, and you find that there's a problem with that solution or a problem with the integration and configure it in your environment. That could create a vulnerability, and there you go. You've got a breach vector where people can get into, and you've got a weakness in your system, which means you have a vulnerability. There's somebody coming in and getting involved in your system and doing some bad acting. That's one perspective, but I think another more relevant perspective is about if you go down the line of procurement and you don't manage to review the supply chain that you may be involved in, and your supply chain person, your SME, who's providing a certain level of or a certain widget, for example, isn't secure, and the breach comes through there. There's a range of things that can really go wrong with your procurement from that point on. It may be a backdoor approach in terms of a bad actor getting in through that particular line of sight into your organization. Or it may be that they have a problem that they've delivered a particular solution to you. It might be a piece of kit, so a piece of hardware. It might be like a wheel on a. They build wheels for cars, for example. They have a problem where they can't supply you with that wheel anymore. So your production is down of producing vehicles, for example. So I think if you think about it as an integral part of the process of building the end product that you're constructing, building, or delivering, the real issue is that the security or the cybersecurity approach may not be to hit you directly, but to hit your supply chain, and that's an easier approach. If I can't hit defense, because defense is a hard subject, I'd hit the civilian SME suppliers to impact and have those negative impacts on the defense supply chain. It's happened before countless times, but I think if we start to think about the supply chain as a weak link, and we need to strengthen those links, because at any weak link is the access and the vulnerability. And when you talk about vulnerability before, this is the type of vulnerability space we should be thinking about.